Okay, hi guys. We are going to skip 12.2. It was a bunch of graphing. So I've decided to skip that and introduce you in 12.1 to some graphing. So I'm getting to the things that you're really going to kind of have to know. 12.3, dividing polynomials. This is a big thing. You have to be able to do this. So we're going to start. A polynomial, you know what that is. It can be as simple as 2x, just an x, or it can have a bunch of terms, all right? So one of the first things when you're dividing a polynomial is you always want to make sure it's written from the highest exponent to the lowest. So I can see here it is. So 4x cubed plus 8x squared plus 10x, and I'm dividing it by 2x. So this is what we call a trinomial. We've learned this already. It's got 3 terms. And this is the easiest kind of division, when you just divide the whole thing by 2x. So what you're doing is you're taking every term and you're dividing by 2x. So really, it's going back to remembering the rules of exponents, okay? So I'm going to treat each one separately here. 2 divides into 4. 2 times. I have 1x here and 3, so that means I'm going to take 1 from 3. I'm left with 2x squared on the first part, plus 2 divides into 8, which is 4, and 1x will cancel with the 2 on top, leaving just an x there. So the first 2 terms are 2x squared plus 4x. Then here, plus 2 divided into 10 is 5, and x divided into x is going to cancel out and be gone completely. You know that. 5 divided by 5 is 1, x divided by x, it's 1 really, but 1 doesn't change anything. I have the 5. 5 times 1 is still 5, so I don't have to worry about it. So that's the simplest, okay? When you're just dividing, whether it's a trinomial or a binomial, which is 2 terms, by 1 term, you're not going to get much simpler than that, okay? So we're going to move on from there, and we're now going to look at example 2, where we take a trinomial, a 3 term, and we divide it by 2. That's the one here that's going to take a little bit of practice. So by x minus 1, that is going to be the divisor here, and inside here is the dividend inside, plus 2x minus 3. So now it's not just one term. So we're doing dividing like we would. And this is something that you're going to most probably have to watch. And also too, you can look at other videos, but there is a lot to it and it's a lot of practice, okay? Just dividing by 1 is fairly easy. So you just have to watch this over and over again and do the homework as I'm doing it. And sometimes with certain people, it will click real quick. Sometimes it takes a while. Okay, so this is the way that we're going to do it. We look at the first term. Then we look at the first term here. And we're saying, what times this x will give me x squared? That's why you have to know the rules of exponents, okay? So we'd learned that before. That's why math always builds on itself, and if you forget things, you constantly have to relearn, okay? So what times x gives me x squared? Hopefully you're going to say x. X times x gives me x squared, correct? All right, so now I take x and I multiply it by here. I should get the same thing that I have here. So x times x is x squared. But one of the things that you have to do is change the signs. So I go ahead and I change the sign. So it's really important. I'm going to write it here. You have to always change the sign. So x times x is x squared. I got exactly what is here, so I know it's right. And I change the sign to negative x squared. Then if I multiply this, the first terms together, then I have to take this first term and also multiply it by the second term here. So x times negative 1 is negative 1x. But remember, we always change the signs. So instead of being negative 1x, it now becomes plus x. Okay? So then you look here And if you've done it right, the first term should always cancel out. If they do not cancel out, you've done it wrong. So 1x squared minus 1x squared is 0x squared. That tells me I've done it right. 2x plus 1x leaves me 3x minus 3. Okay? And that's exactly what they have down here. They just did it slightly different. There's different ways to do it. I'm going to show you the easiest way to do it. So now, again, you're looking here, and this 3x minus 3, so we can look at this as x minus 1, now divided into 3x minus 3. Okay, so I'm going to scratch that out. That's what we're doing here. But the answer that we're going to get, we're going to join up here. Okay, and like I said, it seems a little bit weird because you're not used to this, but the more you do it, you'll get the hang of it, okay? So x times what is going to give me 3x? If I've already got the x, what am I missing? Hopefully you can see it's a 3. And then you check. 3 times x gives me 3x, which is correct. But remember, what do I always have to do? When I multiply and I put it underneath, I have to change a sign. So I get a negative 3x. So this is positive 3x, but I change the sign. Then I have to do the same thing here. 3 times negative 1 gives me negative 3. But I don't write negative 3. I change the sign and I put plus 3. Then I look here and this cancels out. 3x minus 3x, so that tells me I've done it right. And then minus 3 and plus 3 are going to cancel out too. So I am left with just x. Okay? All right, so we are going to do another one. Actually, let me write it back here. Two x squared plus 11x. This way I've got lots of room. Minus 9 by 2x minus 3. Okay, so I'm going to write 2x minus 3 divided, always make sure it's in descending order, 2x squared plus 11x minus 9. All right, so we are looking at this first term and we're looking at this first term. So 2x times what number here is going to give me 2x squared? Well, I can see I've already got the 2. I've got 1x and I need x squared, so that means I have to multiply by x. It's all about remembering multiplying the rules of exponents that you're adding. So if I know that it's right, when I take this first term and multiply it by this first term, I will get 2x squared. And let's see, x times 2x is 2x squared. But remember, I have to change the sign. So I'm going to write, yeah, I should have done the first one like this where you had more room. So I've got negative 2x squared. So I know I've done it right because these are going to cancel. But before I move on, if I take the first term and multiply it to this first term, then I have to take the first term and I've got to multiply it here. So x times negative 3 is negative 3x, but I don't write negative 3x. I change a sign and I write plus 3x. Okay? So let's go ahead and check this out. So this is cancelled, so I know I've done it right. 11x plus 3x is 14x, and you bring down what's left. That's it. So I'm going to leave it the way that they show it in the book, because they keep working like this. So you're left with 14x minus 9. So now you're going to take 2x minus 3, and you're going to see if you can divide it into 14x minus 9. So you're going to do the same thing. So 2x times what will give me 14x. Well, I already know I have the x's here. 2 times what gives me 14? Hopefully you know it's plus 7. Okay, and the way I check is 7 times 2x is 14x, and that's exactly what's here. So I know it's right, but then I have to change a sign. If you don't change a sign, you can't cancel nothing out. So you always have to remember that. Now, sometimes in other books, they do it afterwards. I just like to do it immediately. That's where I've changed it slightly, because by helping people, they forget sometimes to change a sign later. So just change it immediately, then you don't have to worry about it. Okay, so then I have to do the same thing. If I've done 7 times 2x is 14x, change a sign, and I have to say 7 times negative 3 is negative 21. But remember, I'm not going to put negative 21. I'm going to change a sign to positive 21. Okay, so this canceled out. 14x minus 14x is 0. So I know I've done it right. If you've done it right, the first terms always cancel. That's how you can tell. But then I've got 21 minus 9, which is going to be 12. Okay, so just like when you divide regularly and you have a remainder, 2x does not go into 12. There isn't even an x. So that means that's a remainder. So the way that you would write this answer is it's a remainder of plus 12, and you put it over the dividend out here, 2x minus 3. Okay, so your final answer is x plus 7 plus 12 over 2x minus 3. So you put your remainder over what's outside here. All right. So I'm looking here. All right, we'll just do a few more. The more you see, the more it will help you. And like I said, if you need more practice, you can also always go ahead and see if there's someone else, other videos on YouTube. Just put Division of Polynomials, you know. There's plenty of people that do videos. Find someone you really like, you know, that does a really good job that you understand. So the next one is divide 5y plus y squared plus 4 by 2 plus y. Okay? So remember what I said. You have to go ahead and write everything in descending order. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So 2 plus y, you need to write y plus 2. And you divide it into y squared plus 5y plus 4. If you do not put it in descending order, then you will get a wrong answer. So it's really important that you remember to do that. Okay? So once you've put it in the right order, then you can go ahead and do what you've been doing. So y times what gives me y squared? If you remember the rules of exponents, this isn't difficult. If you've forgotten and you have to keep being reminded, that's when it becomes difficult. So hopefully you remember y times y is going to give me y squared. And then you check y times y is y squared. So I'm right, and I change the sign. That's the biggest thing is right, change the sign. If you remember to change the sign, this will be fine. If you don't, then nothing will cancel and you'll end up with a big mess, okay? So if I multiply y times y here, then obviously to keep balance, I've got to take the y and multiply it by 2. That's all you do. So y times 2 is 2y, but I'm not going to write plus 2y because I keep saying change a sign. So minus 2y. So see, you're lining up the y squares. You're lining up the y's, okay? So this cancels, so that tells me it's correct. 5y minus 2y is 3y plus 4. Okay, so now we look here. Y times what gives me 3y? Well, I've got the y's. The only thing I'm missing is a 3. So I'm going to write plus 3. And then I'm going to check it. 3 times y is 3y. That's what I have here. So it's correct, but again, I've got to change the sign. If I don't change the sign, I'm not going to be able to do division. So now 3 times y is 3y. I change the sign and I get negative 3y. I know it's cancelled, so it's correct. That's it. If you cannot cancel the first terms, you've done it wrong. That's the little tip that will help you. Then obviously if I take 3 and I multiply it by y, then I've got to take 3 and multiply it by 2. So this is multiplication. 3 times 2 is 6, but I don't put plus 6, I put a minus 6. So this cancels. 4 minus 6 is negative 2. That means I've got a remainder right here, okay? So my answer is plus negative 2 if you want to put, or just minus 2 over y plus 2. So I would see it as y plus 3, and they might write plus minus 2 over y plus 2, or you could see it y plus 3 minus 2 over y plus 2. However they choose to write it. It could be like this with a plus in between and then the minus, or just like this, okay? So what it's saying is that if you took this and you multiplied it to this, you would get back y squared plus 5y plus 4. And it's hard to see with a remainder. It's easier when you don't have a remainder. Okay, so you can see now that you have to make sure that it's in the correct order. So the last thing is where terms are missing, okay? So I'm going to show you what to do then. It's really not that bad. So say you have something like this. 13 plus 4m squared by negative 1 plus 2m. Okay? So negative 1 plus 2m is on the outside. That's what you're dividing by. So write it in the correct way. 2m minus 1. Then you're going to divide 4m squared, obviously is first. And then you've got a plus 13. But before you put 13, you've got, what's the next one? If I've got m squared, I've got no m's. So that's what they mean by filling the missing terms. 0 m's and then plus 13. If you don't, then it gets easy to make a mistake when you're trying to solve it. So you've got an m squared, then m comes next, you have no m's, but write that missing term in plus 13. So now we're going to be able to work it the same way. So remember, you're looking at this first term of 2m, and you're saying 2m times what up here is going to give me 4m squared. Well, 2 times 2 gives me 4, and m times m gives me m squared. And again, you check. 2m times 2m is 4m squared. I got that. So I know I'm correct. That's how you can tell. As long as you can multiply, remember all of this, you'll know. But then, remember, you have to change the sign. So do it immediately. A lot of the videos, if you go and sign on to a video, they're going to have you do it afterwards. I just do it straight up so you don't forget. So 2m times 2m is 4m squared. Change the sign, negative 4m squared. Then, of course, I've got to take it and multiply it to the negative 1. 2m times negative 1 is negative 2m. But again, I've got to change the sign, so I put plus 2m. See, if I didn't have that 0m here, where would I put the 2m? You'd just have plus 13 and it would become a problem. That's why you have to fill in a 0 for the missing terms. If you've got a squared, then you now have no m, you put a 0m. So whatever term is missing, put a 0 and fill it in. This way you won't make a mistake. Now I know I'm correct because this canceled out. That's it. If it doesn't cancel, you've done something wrong. 0 plus 2 is 2m plus 13. So 2m times what will give me 2m? What's the only thing that I can multiply 2m by to get a 2m. It has to be a plus 1. Okay? And we check it. 1 times 2m is 2m. I got that. So that's correct. But again, we change the sign. That is the biggest thing. If you can remember to change a sign, you'll be fine. Okay? So then I have to take this 1. Just think of the order. If you think of order, then you won't get confused. So if I took the 1 and I multiplied it by 2m, then I've got to take this 1 and multiply it by this negative 1. So 1 times negative 1 is negative 1, but again, we change the sign and we say plus 1. So I've done this right because this cancelled out, and 13 plus 1 is 14. That means it's a remainder, okay, because it's less than this. Okay, so plus 14 over 2m minus 1. All right, so I'm going to pick another one to do. Let me look back and see. They have some examples. Okay. All right, so I don't know what the answer is for this. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to pick one more because I know that this is very different. And it just takes practice. So don't be all like scared just because it looks kind of difficult. Everything in math can look kind of difficult until you try it and you do it. And you guys are smart. You get the hang of it. And it's just like everything else. If you practice, you'll get good at it. All right? Just don't be intimidated. And don't rush through it. You spend time on it, you're going to get it. Okay, so we're going to divide. Last one that I'm going to do, 8m minus 7 plus 4m squared. And they can write it like this, divided by 5 plus 2m. Okay, so I'm dividing the 5 plus 2m into the 8m minus 7 plus 4m squared. So I look at this and we're out of order here. So I'm going to write this correctly. 2m plus 5, that's the correct order. Then I'm going to put this in correct order. 4m squared plus 8m, nothing's missing, and then minus 7. But it has to be in the correct order. If you don't, you won't get it right. Okay, so let's go through one more time. It's just as you're doing your homework, you keep doing this, and eventually it's going to click and it's going to be easy. When you first start, it takes a little bit of practice. So I'm looking at this first term and I'm looking at this first term. So 2m times what gives me 4m squared? Hopefully you will say now 2m. And the way you check if this is correct is you multiply these two together, and if you get this, the first term here, you are correct. And then obviously you change your sign because it won't cancel otherwise. So 2m times 2m, so 2 times 2 is 4, and m times m is m squared, so it is correct. And I change the sign to negative 4m squared. So I know I did that. So if I take 2m and I multiply it by the first term, in algebra everything's balanced. I got to take the 2m and multiply it by 5. So 2m times 5 is 10m. But again, we are going to change the sign, so just get that every time you do this, you change the sign. Okay, so I know I'm correct because this is going to cancel to 0. 8m minus 10m is negative 2m, and you bring down what's left, minus 7. Just bring it down. That's it. Just like you do in regular division. It's the same rules. It has remainders like regular division. You bring down numbers. You know, you're doing the same thing. So 2m times what will give me a negative 2m. So I've got the 2m and the 2m. But to make a negative, now I'm multiplying by negative 1, not positive 1. Okay, so negative 1 times 2m is negative 2m. But again, we change a sign. Remember, the first terms have to become a 0 or you're not doing it right. So since it's going to be a 0 here, I know I'm right. So if I take the negative 1 and I multiply it by 2m, then I got to take the negative 1 and multiply by 5. which gives me -5, but I don't write -5, I write +5. So this is 0, so I've done it right. -7 plus 5 is -2, so we know this is a remainder, because -2 is less than 2m. So we know we have a remainder of -2, and we'll always write it over this, 2m plus 5. Okay, so you would pick this as an answer. You most probably see it like this on a quiz or a test, and that would be the correct answer. So guys, just go ahead and practice, and the more you practice, the simpler it will get. Hopefully you understood this. God bless, and we will move on to 12.4 next week. All right, bye-bye.